Welcome to Data Friday. My name is Michael Olschimke. I'm the CEO of Scalefree. We have this session here every Friday to every Friday, 11 o'clock Central European Standard Time, to allow you, the audience, to ask questions about DataVault, to know data mining, data-driven applications, MPP clusters, right? This kind of stuff here. So anything is allowed as long as it's data-driven to some extent. If you receive multiple questions, and you can ask your question either by a form, which I show you afterwards, at least a link for the form. You can also raise a live question here. If you want to raise a question via chat or Q&A function, all good. You can also use your hand, and I give you voice. I mean, your virtual hand here. I don't see your physical hand. But yeah, I will give you voice. Don't misuse that, right? And if you receive multiple questions, I would cherry pick those which I answer. Good question is what you can answer within 10, 15 minutes roughly. If there will be no questions at all, I will talk about a cluster. But as we come out of the summer break now, that was your chance to talk about the cluster. Typically, we have good number of questions if it's not summer. All right. So let me just share what's today's question. So that's a question that we received over the form by one of the attendees of the regular attendees here of these sessions, and it's really about the single point of fact, or the point of facts. I say that because in DataVault 2.0 we say there's a single point of facts. And that's the raw data vault, right? Compare this to the single version of the truth in traditional data warehousing, where the idea is that there is one single version of the truth for the whole enterprise. What's a customer, what's a product, and so on, right? So here we say, well, no, that's not the case. There's a single point of facts, the raw data vault. That's where we capture the facts first, and then we can produce multiple versions of the truth depending on which context you're in, what's your opinion about what a customer is, and so on, right? We don't fight that fight, essentially. Not worth it. Now, here's a question. In a Lakehouse architecture, what is the source of truth? Files in a data lake or raw data vault, BusinessVault tables? What if I found a bug in the ingestion framework, incorrect population of business keys that requires reingestion of all sources? Now, let's think about this, where it comes from. The idea is that in an audible environment, when you have to prove to somebody that your data warehouse is capturing your data correctly and you're able to reproduce reports, you have to be able to show proof of two aspects. The first aspect is you must be able to reconstruct every delivery to the data warehouse as is, without losing any data and without artificially generating any data, right? Are you able to reproduce every delivery to the data warehouse? And the second one is that you're able to reproduce every report that you ever shipped out to the end user, to a business user, not for development purposes, but on a regular basis. Those reports you have to also be able to reproduce. And today is really about the first aspect. Are you able to reproduce the deliveries? And here's my opinion on it. First of all, there's two options here. If everything is good, if everything is correctly implemented, you should be able to reconstruct the deliveries from both the data lake and the raw data vault. The BusinessVault here, in my opinion, is well, it's not about opinions. It's really for the, as a matter of fact, it's for the reporting framework, right? So are you able to reproduce the reports by applying the same business rules? So I would keep out the BusinessVault here in this discussion. Has nothing to do with what we're discussing here, reproducing the deliveries. And you have two choices or two options, the data lake and the raw data vault, if everything is correct, right? And now you say, well, what if you make a mistake when loading the data from the data lake into the raw data vault? If I would say this, if you design both systems to follow this point of facts, you have two options to reconstruct the delivery. The more the better, in my opinion. And it's typically a bit easier to dump the data on the data lake because you're just offloading it into a data lake. And to be honest, I wouldn't, if I know these approaches with the Delta Lake and so on, but honestly, if we receive data as full loads every day, just dump them on a data lake, because the more you do, the more can go wrong, right? And the less you do, the less can go wrong, technology-wise. So that's what I would do. I would just dump the data. You have it anyway. Just dump it into the data lake, and that's it. That's your first option to reproduce the delivery. But then, for multiple reasons, I would like to have the raw data vault also a reconstructible system, right? Where we don't modify the data essentially, and where we don't make any mistakes. Sure. So the raw data vault I would always design also in a way that I could reproduce the delivery from the raw data vault as well. it's just easier from the data lake, in my opinion, right? But that would be my approach, because then you have full data lineage, you have essentially no issues with applying business rules in the business vault and so on, right? If the raw data vault is consistent, if you're able to reconstruct every delivery from the raw data vault as well, that would be my approach. I would keep both environments to be audible, essentially. And then the question is, what's your point of facts, right? Because that's the actual question. What is the source of truth? Well, I would say, what is the source of the facts, or the point of facts? There is no single point of facts in this scenario, right? You have 2 points of facts, but they should match. You must be able to reconcile both layers, and they must exactly match. That's the idea. And you could even automate this. And we have customers where we did this, where we automated, reconciled the data lake, or the staging area on the data lake with the data in the raw data vault. And if you could not reproduce the file in this data lake from the raw data vault, if you couldn't rejoin everything back to the original delivery as in the staging area on the data lake, then you had a problem, right? And that's easy, or relatively easy to automate, using the same metadata you use for automating the raw data vault, breaking everything apart into business keys, relationships, and descriptive data. The same metadata you can use to reconstruct the delivery. It's just the inverse, essentially, right? So that's the basic idea. Yeah. So that would be my approach. Keep both fully audible. Keep both essentially as a point of facts, but not really the single point of facts, right? It's in both systems. And if something goes wrong, that's the next question here. What if you find a bug? Well, then you can, because you have a backup, the data lake, backup strategy, right? You can reload the raw data vault, or the parts of the raw data vault where you messed it up, again from the raw data, from the data lake, essentially. That's what I would do, essentially. All right. Yeah, that's my relatively short or long answer, depending on what you expected. Okay, cool. If you have a question like this, good question actually. Let me just double check if there's anything. No. So if you have a question like this, use the form here behind sfr.ee/dvfriday. That's where you can submit your question like this, upload some images or pictures or documents if you want, and gives me some time to create a slide. Well, I just copy and paste your text, optimize a bit, and that's it, to be honest. But hey, and if you have more immediate questions, because the next Data Friday is next Friday, right? If you can't wait until then, join the Data Innovators Exchange, which is a community-like forum-style community where you can also ask questions, and we jump on your questions and answer them as quick as we can, essentially. And so much faster than me once a week, essentially. And we answer more questions, right? And next week, on Monday, we have essentially the Data Dreaming Conference coming up. That's a on-site conference in Hanover, Germany. I'll be there. Most of the Scalefree team will be there. And we will present essentially some very interesting customer projects, lots of data mining you can expect on the conference to see. So a couple of data mining projects and data vault and data mining and so on, right? And yeah, if you don't have a ticket yet, but if you can make it until Monday, check out the QR code here and get your ticket, essentially. So let's shake hands, essentially, on the conference. Yeah, that's it from my side. Thanks for joining. Hope you enjoyed today's session. Relatively short, but good question. Hope to see you on Monday. And if not, hope to see you at least on Friday. Thank you, guys.